Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing on this sweltering afternoon?
Oh, it's nice to be indoors, but I'm doing great. It's wonderful to be back after being gone for like the last 4 weeks. I think I've turned a decade older since the last time I saw you. So hit number 70 a few weeks ago. So, but it's no, it's great to be back.
Yes, and hopefully you had a happy birthday and a great trip, traveling.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy I found the podcast today.
Yeah. Well, today we've got a very special guest. He is the founder of Autism Rocks and Rolls, Sam Mitchell. Sam, welcome.
Hey, buddy, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you could join us. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the organization?
All right. So, hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell, and I run the podcast, Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I developed sponsors, a board of 8. I plan events in Indiana, which is where I'm from. We're having a poker run coming up very soon. And I do motivational speaking. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, Stuart, Florida, and Washington, D.C.
That's fantastic. So how long have you been doing this as a nonprofit?
Since October 2020. No, I'm sorry. The podcast was October 2019. The nonprofit was in 2020. Can't remember the exact date, but I think April.
That's okay. So what made you decide to create a nonprofit around your podcast?
Well, we started seeing it grow so much, and people started asking about sponsoring the podcast, which I didn't know you could do. I thought that was for events and retreats and summits, not for podcasts or radio shows. I knew it was for radios, but not for podcasts. So we learned about podcasts and sponsors. That started. Then I got invited to speak. Hey, let's do a gala. Okay, never heard of it, but what the heck? Let's give it a shot. A lot of these first ideal opportunities came to me. Then I kind of continued the wheel spinning.
Excellent. So you mentioned that one of the purposes of the podcast is to let people know about the experiences of autistic people that maybe they don't understand. What's a common experience that you found needs explaining to people?
The socializing. A lot of people think we can't socialize, which isn't fully true. Do I suck at socializing? Yes. I'm not going to lie to you there. But does that mean I can't socialize at all? No, I can definitely socialize. I can have conversations with people. I can have friendships. And there's this myth that we don't like to socialize. Some are like that, but some aren't like that.
Right. So across the autism spectrum, you have a wide range of people, don't you? Talking about the socialization. Some have trouble socializing, some don't. Some like to socialize, some don't.
Right. And then each time a person gets diagnosed, it comes with its own issues. Maybe for some, it's just anxiety. For someone else, it could be not understanding how to put on deodorant.
Yeah, I love the phrase going into your website about our goals. Obviously, you have the video on there, which I highly recommend. I know you'll give everybody the information for the website at the end of this, but I highly recommend that people go in and take a look at that. But basically, it says you are a high-functioning human being on the autism spectrum, but you have a mission to show people that you are not broken, don't need to be fixed. There is no normal in this world, and you are successful with autism. And that is wonderful, obviously for people with autism, but for everybody in the world, because everybody in one way or another may feel that they're a little bit different, but you've really taken it off the charts with something that people, I think, really need to understand a whole lot more about. So it's just wonderful. I'm glad that you came to Eric's networking meeting and that you're here talking this with us today, because hopefully we can spread the word more. And you're doing a fantastic job from what I see on your website and all the different things that you're doing.
Thank you.
So for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with how autism affects people, how would you describe your level of autism on the spectrum?
I would say pretty higher than others, but I have friends who are on the lower end. They don't understand a lot of things about how the world works. But I mean, it all comes with its own challenges, as I said earlier. But it also comes with certain aspects of life with the parents too. The parents' lives may have to change. They may be having an adult kid living at their basement for the rest of their life. It could happen.
Yes, it can. So what kind of challenges have you faced?
Well, mine is sensory issues is a challenge I've always had to overcome. Mine's really with clothes, but a lot of people don't like taste of certain foods because of textures. Mine's not with food. Mine's with clothing. You don't get my shirt wet or it's coming off. Hands no doubt. Good luck trying me to make a shirt that's wet stay on. I overanalyze a lot of certain social aspects. I always think, does this person hate me? Did this person backstab me in the back just now? What is the meaning behind you talking to me right now? I know the meaning behind you talking to me right now. It's an interview. But I mean someone out on the street.
And so how do you cope with these challenges?
Well, the way with the overanalyzing part is I try to have to figure out the tone of their voice if I can, which I'm not the best at either, but I try. And I just try to look at the person's intent, their body language, which is also a struggle I don't do well with, is non-speaking communication. And I'm talking about the eye rolls, the body language, facial expressions, gestures. That's what I mean by communication. So it all kind of ties in, but it's just a hard life some days, but I'm doing all right for the most part. Just that I have to do little tools and tricks. A lot of speech therapy has helped too. Learn these social cues, how to converse, and just supported parents, helping me when it's not appropriate and when it is inappropriate.
So according to your website, you've got quite a number of events coming up. Can you tell us about some of them?
Yep. So this weekend in Indy, we're going to be at the Fun Fair, just a vendor for families, and it's a little trade show. I have a summer concert coming up at the Bluebird in Bloomington. The Hairbangers Ball is performing for us, a little Chicago rock concert, like Chicago band, rock band that goes all over Chicago and the Midwest. And then we also have a motorcycle poker run. Motorcyclists, you want to go on the ride, feel free. I also will be speaking highly likely in Daniels, West Virginia.
All right. So now we had a conversation prior to this where you've mentioned meeting some quite famous people, including Temple Grandin. What was that like?
Oh, it was fun. That was a fun experience. I would say we're definitely friends to this day. She definitely has a unique mindset on autism, and she is a bottom-up thinker. But what she's done for the agricultural world is just phenomenal. She's the reason cows are going in the slaughterhouse reasonably and not have to fight the cow.
And how did you meet her?
Uh, Honestly, we sent her an email.
And she just responded.
Yes, sir.
That's fantastic. And I think, that's a lesson for people right there, whether you have autism or not, to just go for it. If you want to meet somebody, if you want to connect, and communicate with someone, take that chance and reach out. You never know what can happen.
Right. The worst they can do is say no.
Exactly. So what's your goal for all of these events that you're doing? Is it just, are you raising money? Are you trying to raise awareness? What is it you want to
Yeah, we're raising
accomplish?
money for the nonprofit. But my goal is always to spread acceptance for autism and to show people, look what I can do with autism. I'm not all bad. There's some good to me, but it's also to make some money and keep the nonprofit going. So I can not only help people, but help myself financially, help myself financially.
So what is it that you would like people to understand about autism?
We're not broken. There's no need to be fixed. I'm a fine human being. There's this organization in other places. Not all organizations believe this, but they're pro cure, as I call it. They want to cure us. I don't need to be cured. I'm doing just fine right now. Is it frustrating some days? Yes. But do I get, oh my gosh, I wish I never had this. Let me take this pill. I don't want it ever again. No.
Right. It's essentially part of you. It's not something that happened to you. Is that your view?
Right. And why did you get rid of something that is essentially a part of my life? I wouldn't have any of my other aspects with the autism. I bet the reason why I like professional wrestling is part of being on the autism spectrum. If I was on the autism spectrum, there'd probably be no professional wrestling in my life, and I wouldn't make it.
Are you saying you want to be a professional wrestler?
No, I just said I've been obsessed with professional wrestling since I was 6. And truth be told, if I wasn't on the autism spectrum, I probably would not like professional wrestling. Professional wrestling's helped me out through my life. So if I didn't have professional wrestling, I wouldn't be making it.
How has it helped you?
A lot of confidence. I felt safe when I watched it in a world that was not built for me, still isn't built for me. And it's just helped me out with socializing. Understanding these promos kind of helped me figure out, oh, this person's pretty upset or this person's happy.
That's great. So what other challenges have you faced, that you're taking on? I mean, it seems that you're taking these things head on.
Well, I think I'm head on, or I probably would overthink about these challenges and not do anything other than rock on the couch. But something else that I have an issue with is I have foot and mouth syndrome, as I call it. That's pretty much where I'm too blunt. I've said some stuff that I want to throw back, but it's too late to. I've already said it, been there, done that, and I can't take it back. Sometimes I have a hard time with bending or making plan Bs. I don't do it. We just do it or we don't. That's always been my life philosophy. And then let's see what else. I have an issue with small talk. Like, hey, how you doing? I don't get it. And sometimes my behavior can be very unreasonable. An example of this would be when I waited in the parking lot because of my wisdom tooth surgery, and it hurt so bad, I just had to do something for my sanity. So I thought the best idea would be, why not just go to a parking lot of the dentist? I know I can't get operated on, but at least I'm there. And that's something. Something's better than nothing, as they say.
So for you, it's really all about getting something done and making progress, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, or even if the idea is insane, or even sometimes ridiculous.
Well, when you have a ridiculous idea, how do you deal with that? Do you just
Oh,
go?
sometimes I will not shut up about it till I get the way. It's kind of the my way or the highway situation. It's like, all right, I'm not shutting up about it until I get this. And I don't use it a lot now. Back when I was younger, I did, but now I'm more reasonable as an adult. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get it. Fine, whatever. But if I'm not shutting up about it, that's your cue. Like, guys, I need to do this. I need to go to that parking lot, or you're gonna hear me moaning and groaning all night. That's what else we're talking about. Not pain, but sick. So I'm not a guy who likes to get sick. We all don't clearly. But my issue isn't certain like stomach bugs. It's the as I call it, the mild symptoms. So I'm not talking about like a fever. I'm talking about like a runny nose, sore throat, your ears are bothering you. It's when your sinuses mess up.
Yep.
And because of sensory issues, that really gets to me. Now, I'm better with handling the throat and the ears and the eyes, but the nose still boots me in the butt.
And that's because you have sensory issues. Losing the sense of smell or hearing if you're clogged up, things like that, that really affects you.
Pretty much, but it's also just having to go every 5 minutes. It's like, gosh, dang, could you just go in there? Can you just go drip a little bit and go in the throat? I know it's not any better. I know it's a little more going like, but I'd rather hear than a that.
So it's all about how you're handling these things. Now, you're not running your nonprofit by
Well, the way
yourself.
I'm handling the sickness is not the best at points. I've been known to just pretty much be in bed with a runny nose, or sometimes if it's getting so bad with the nose, I've literally plugged it up with tissues because I'm like, guys, I can't take it. So here I am with the house with your tissues sticking out like a big booger. It's pretty funny.
It sounds it. Now, you're not running the nonprofit by yourself. Your mother is running it with you. Is that correct?
Yep. Then we have a board. We're gonna probably have a committee meeting tonight too. We have committees for events, marketing. But yes, they help me a lot. I mean, they all have their own job descriptions. One knows more about nonprofit. The one's the treasurer. One knows more about connections. There's all our little ties and kinks where we all chime in together.
So how many people are working in the nonprofit?
8, if I remember correctly.
Nice. And so because of the autism, you're still living at home, but you go to school, correct?
Yeah, I'm home for the summer, but I'm working at an internship. There's a radio station about in a small town that's not far from me. That's kind of a job. Then Autism Rocks and Rolls is a second job. But I'm a college student going to my last year this semester, going to be studying for broadcasting.
Fantastic. So what got you interested in broadcasting?
Well, I started joining my high school's media club. I fell in love with the podcasting, the broadcasting so much. After I found this club, I decided I want to start my own instead of waiting till college, maybe to expand the skills I learned in media club. And that's where I found Autism Rocks and Rolls. But then I went to college and I'm learning more about Adobe Audition. Although from a personal standpoint, I prefer Audacity. Adobe's a pretty cool little um, concept to use program.
Yes, it is. For those of our listeners who are not familiar with these programs, both Adobe Audition and Audacity, our audio editing software. So you edit your own podcasts then. You don't have someone else do it.
Oh yeah, that's all me. All the podcasts and what you hear is mainly me, but the stuff behind the scenes, the speaking engagements, the events, that's more nonprofit. But I chime in when I can. I'm not the guy who will say, "Hey, go do it. Thank you." No, I'm not that guy. I'm like, "All right, what can I do to help?"
That's a fantastic attitude.
Yeah, you say services offered on your website, your business coaching, obviously, uh, collaborative educational writing. Talk to me about that. Talk to us about that. Obviously, you're working with others to educate all of us out here.
Right. So podcast coaching is something I do. I will coach you how to start a podcast. We're trying to boost that up more as time goes on. I have taught some businesses here and there how to run their show and their business a little bit about if it's a nonprofit. But creative writing, it's mainly blogs, what I do. I do like to write here and there. I'm a bit of a blogger, and I always like to, if I can, share someone else's blog out there if I ever get the chance. That hasn't happened yet, but hopefully maybe one day.
Excellent. So when you talk about business coaching, you're talking about helping businesses understand the needs of people with autism and how that can affect the workforce. What kind of issues do you talk to them about?
Well, that's one thing I've done before, but in the workplace in particular, the kicker is no one will hire us. And it's so stinking frustrating. An example is I went to a conference. This is the Washington, D.C. one. It's called Neurodiversity in the Workplace. They were there at the conference because they didn't know what to do if someone's on the autism spectrum. And I just found that appalling because you're not going to hire them because of one aspect. Okay, maybe they are on the autism spectrum, but you're missing a great employee. They're never going to be late. I'm always 15 minutes early when it comes to my job. They're never going to let you down. They always want to please their boss. They want to do it right. And they're there to get the job done, which for some people who are on the autism spectrum would rather be on their phone. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty. I've been on my phone at work. I'm not going to lie. But it's because I've been on downtime. I'm not, oh, what's that? Oh,
Right.
what's that? Oh, what's that? It's I'm doing the work.
So when you're dealing with businesses, if you've convinced them to hire somebody with autism, what do they have to know about the needs of someone with autism to make sure they've got a good environment?
The accommodations. Certain jobs are not very accommodating to those on the spectrum. Now, there are resources out there, but a boss would understand. Example is I've heard from one of my connections, Employ You, up in Florida. They help those on the spectrum get jobs and help them with certain problems at the job. He would literally spit in the air, lightning, because it was just too bright for him. Well, obviously, we can't do that. We can't go to workplace and spit at the light. It's just not reasonable. Spray bottle and spray water up there. So when it did get too light, he can maybe spray water to dimmer the light down a bit.
So in that particular case, what would have been better for the business person is to actually have that light on a dimmer so that they could actually dim it down for him.
Right. Or if it's possible, this is kind of cool. I know one of the Walmarts at that small town I work at, they have sensory friendly hours from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
What sensor? I'm not familiar with the term. What's a sensory friendly hour?
Okay, sensory friendly is just pretty much everything's on a low down. Maybe the volume's turned down of the music that's playing in the grocery store. The lights are down a little bit. There's not much people, and that's something with me. I am not a guy who likes big crowds. Although I've been to places with big crowds and I'll do it, I'd rather not. If it was up to me at the big concert that you're going to go see Led Zeppelin at, I'd rather see him at a small bar compared to a big stage, an outdoor stage. So maybe there's less people. And maybe and just the workers are extra nice.
Interesting. Now, I know, during COVID, a lot of retail stores did something like that for seniors, where from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., it was seniors only because they were more susceptible to the virus. So by keeping the general public out, they made it easier for them. This is something like that for people with sensory issues.
Right. Well, those sensory issues should apply to those on the spectrum too, because I bet something we can share with senior citizens is we don't like loud noises. Some, not all. I'm one of those opposites. I like loud noises. Rock and roll music kind of cured the issue of me not liking loud noises. But there's some out there who would still say, that music's so loud. Oh my God, turn it down, please. My ear's about to bust.
So that's some great advice and something business owners should keep in mind, that you can get some great workers who may be on the spectrum with just some minor accommodations.
Yeah, it is great. It is great advice, man. But it's needed too. Or otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of people because a lot of your customers might be on a spectrum and you're losing people because you won't do something for a certain population.
Excellent. So you just mentioned that, rock and roll was big for you. Who do you listen to?
Huh. Well, the list go to eons and eons, buddy. AC/DC, Nickelbacks are my two favorites, but then there's a lot of others: Motley Crue, Elvis Presley, Papa Roach, 3 Days Grace, ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Let's think of who else here. I know I'm forgetting one. What? Papa Roach, I said him. Seether is another one for you. George Thorogood, I listened to a couple of his songs.
That's a great lineup.
And then I'm trying to have another one here. That's like Queen. There we go. Queen's another one I'll check out.
All right. Well, we are coming up on the end of our time. So for anybody who's interested in listening to your podcast or finding out more about Autism Rocks and Rolls, how can they do it?
So you can find me on your favorite media platform: Podbean, Spotify, YouTube. Not a hard guy to find. If you find me, something will pop up. And all you gotta do is go to the Google search bar in your search engine optimization. But if you need something in particular, the website also, from what I've learned, has the headphones button. Just hit the headphones button on the website and you can listen to it from there.
All right. And that website is autismrocksandrolls.com. So, Sam, it's been great having you today. Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway from this episode?
This has just been wonderful. Continuing on with what I was reading about you, basically, Sam wants to celebrate the successes of all, embracing who he is. He feels though everybody should be doing the same thing. And your mission is catching on and it's touching a whole lot of people. So your outlook on what you're facing and how you are facing it is absolutely amazing. And you use the term, just go for it. The worst people can do is say no. And it's just a lesson that everybody needs to know. And it's just fantastic that you've been taking that to the next level. So you are truly making a difference. And I highly recommend that people go to the website and take a look at what you're all about, and help you out in any way that you can. I know that you have a lot of good causes on there, a lot of events going on, and the more people know about that, so they can get on board and help you out in whatever way they can. Keep on doing it.
I think for me, the big takeaway is the fact that you're a great example of not letting things stop you. You look at who you are, you see what limitations you may have, and you don't stop there. You find ways to deal with it. You find ways to overcome that. And that's something that not just for people on the autism spectrum, but everybody needs to really take into consideration. People are different, and those differences come with strengths as well as weaknesses. If we work together, if we make accommodations, if we learn about people, it's better for everybody. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.